In the FlexiProject system, we can manage the schedule and budget of projects, which will continually show us the situation with task deadlines and expenses. But what about when we want to create a plan for a project, meaning the schedule and recording of expenses? Such baseline will be our reference point from which we can track changes. For example, when our schedule and budget are agreed with the client and we want to save them as a set baseline plan. In such cases, we use baselines in our system. On the screen, you can currently see the project I just created. This project includes set dates on the schedule and budget elements. Let's assume we want to define this schedule as our plan. In a situation where, for example, we have agreed on this schedule with our client and it should not be subject to changes, and if any changes do occur, whether in the schedule or in the budget, we would like to see any deviations from this baseline plan. To create a baseline plan in our application, we have two options. First, through the Baseline tab, second, through the Project Charter. I will show both. First, showing how to do it through the Baseline tab. In the Baseline tab, add a new baseline. I will name my first baseline Baseline 1. Currently, it has a pending status, and it is my draft version of the baseline. We can see that there are two options available for approval. Selecting these options will result in saving the data as the official baseline once it is approved. The first option concerns the schedule and the proposed project end date, which defines the schedule structure that we agree to accept. The second option relates to the budget. If we click on Preview, we can see what budget we are agreeing on, for example with our client, or which one we want to approve in our plan. I can also add additional information here, such as descriptions, the scope of the base plan, and attachments. If I wanted to accept such a base plan, I should click Acceptance. If I click Save, this baseline plan will be saved, but as a draft, meaning its status will still be pending. I want to accept this baseline plan and I click Acceptance. In this case, a window will open for me with the option to choose the acceptance path. If a baseline with an agreed schedule and budget needs approval from a specific decision-making group, I can simply choose the appropriate acceptance path here. If needed, you can also configure your own acceptance paths in the PMO tab. The project manager can still approve the project charter directly. Once I click Approve Baseline, the status changes to Approved. When I click Save and go to my schedule, after adjusting the column view, I can see fields such as Baseline Start, Baseline End, and Baseline Duration added to the schedule list. These fields refer to the baseline I just approved. Currently, the baseline dates are identical to the current schedule, since our approved plan matches the ongoing schedule. Similarly, in the Budget tab, I can display what the baseline was and what the difference is. Currently, it is 0. But what will happen if our project, its schedule and budget change? I'll go into the Gantt chart and define some delays on the project, as I know some tasks will be delayed. I'll see two things. The first is that my dependent tasks have been delayed. I talk about dependencies in another video, and I encourage you to watch it. What we can see here is that when some tasks are shifted, the position of the task tiles on the schedule also changes. The schedule changes with respect to rectangular highlights, which indicate my baseline. The location of these bars, which show me my basic plan, has changed. You can now see the option to display or hide visual references to my baseline. From this level, I can observe the deviations on the schedule in a graphical form. Such deviations are also visible in the list view in the corresponding columns. For example, here we can see that the start dates have changed. In this case, the start, end, and duration columns will indicate the current state of our project. Meanwhile, Baseline Start and Baseline End will refer to our baseline plan. Similarly with the budget. Let's assume that the costs of some of my expenses have changed. I am changing the cost levels. In the meantime, I have also added new expenses with certain amounts, my new expenditures. We can see that it shows me here the difference between the current budget and the baseline budget. As we can see, it currently amounts to $66,000. If I click on such an expense, I will see that the current value is $40,000. However, the value from my baseline plan was 30,000. A difference of 10,000 is displayed in red. If I want to view my baseline plans elsewhere, I can do so from the project portfolio perspective. After entering the schedule, I can see the current state of implementation. These are represented by the large blue and white rectangles. In this view, we can see the schedules and baseline plans for a sample portfolio of several projects. After hovering over it, I see the start dates, the end date, and the dates that result from the baseline plan, as well as if I switch these values that now appear and disappear. I can display the current baseline and the initial baseline for my project, allowing me to track not only deviations from the latest baseline plan, but also from the very first initial baseline. Tracking this from the project portfolio perspective provides a broader view of plan execution across multiple projects. Let's return to our project. Let's assume we want to create a new baseline plan based on these changes in the schedule. In a hypothetical situation where we are making decisions together with our client or the project steering committee, this will become our new baseline plan. We can achieve this, as I mentioned, in two ways. The first method is through the baseline itself, and the second is through the project charter. I click Add and create a new project charter. After completing the fields of the project charter, specifying details beyond the budget and schedule, when I send it for approval, I can see that I am thereby requesting changes to both the schedule and the budget, which will become my new baseline plan. Similar to the Baseline tab, I can choose the acceptance path or accept it as the project manager. When we request approval for a new baseline, it shows the changes of the requested baseline compared to the last baseline. We can see that the requested end date has changed by 8 days due to our schedule adjustments, and the baseline budget changes from the current €395,000 to the requested budget of €461,000, resulting in a difference of €66,000. If I click Approve, we can see that the project charter has been accepted. Our baseline has also been approved and originates from the project charter. If I go to the schedule, I can see that baseline start and baseline end have been updated according to the approval. If I open a task, I can view the details regarding the baseline dates. So, in the case of any change to the schedule, I see the current date and the date from the baseline plan. Thanks to baseline plans, we are able to effectively manage how the project is progressing, handling any changes, whether in the schedule or the budget. That's why I would like to encourage you to create a baseline plan in your FlexiProject system and see how it works in your projects. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you successful work in the FlexiProject system.